Hey guys, this is Chris Stafford with the Agent Unleashed Collective, and I am super excited to introduce our guest today, which I'm really looking forward to talking to. I've never talked to anybody that is in the field of Feng Shui, and I want to introduce Steve Kodad. You have to listen to this. This is the most amazing intro that I'm going to read to you. He's a national real estate trainer and author who specializes in incorporating a 4,000-year-old environmental science known as Feng Shui. He taught mathematics and coached for 17 years in public and private schools. In 1990, he began a very successful career in real estate in North Carolina and South Carolina, co-owner of a 34-agent real estate company in Charlotte. Wow. He discovered Feng Shui in 2002 and received his first certification as a Feng Shui professional in 2004. Started his own company, which is called the Feng Shui Cure. I love that. He's written 3 books on his techniques, and his latest book is called The Feng Shui Cure for Home Sellers. That's what we need here. And it was published in 2016. He's been on PBS. He's been interviewed on many radio shows, podcasts, magazines, newspapers, and he certifies new Feng Shui consultants along with his partner, Elisa Alban, with the Intrinsic School of Feng Shui. And he also awards, I think this is interesting for any of those realtors that are watching this, he also awards the certification of Feng Shui real estate professional to real estate professionals throughout the United States and Canada. Steve, welcome. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm really, really glad to be here with you.
Hey, that's a pretty impressive intro, I have to admit. So you've been really like all over the board, and I'm not sure you and I talked before, I'm not sure that I really knew that you used to run a real estate company.
Yeah.
How did you get in real estate?
Well, I got into it because I was tired of being in a classroom and I wanted to be outside. And so my wife was open to the idea for me to go ahead and try something like that. I had my license, believe it or not, in New Jersey part-time when I was teaching and coaching there. And really didn't do much with it, but have always found looking at homes extremely interesting, very exciting to do that kind of stuff. I love older homes, for example, and a lot of them are in New Jersey, but that's how I got into it. I was really ready for a change. I just was ready for a change. Those walls started to get closer and closer to me.
I know what that's like because I don't know if you know, before I went into real estate in 1937, I used to work with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I did that for 11 years. Absolutely hated being a CPA. I guess technically I'm still a CPA, and I understand exactly. That's the same reason I went into real estate. I hated being stuck in there. But this is a real fascinating transition. So what I'd love for you to do is talk about the whole concept of Feng Shui, maybe give us a primer 101, high level real fast. But how did you get from real estate to the Feng Shui? That's really interesting.
Well, I considered myself a listing agent. And so I had quite a few listings, and I was already a certified home stager. I decided to go that route. And I knew those kind of things really helped an awful lot, Chris, and was always into the idea of how color reacted to people and all that kind of thing. And so I had somebody from California, actually an agent who's also a Feng Shui practitioner, send me some emails, and I'm sure she sent them out by the ton, but it sort of hit me. And so I sent away for the tapes and started listening to them, and it intrigued me a great deal, to be frank. And that particular weekend, I got a listing in my neighborhood who had been with 2 other realtors and were sort of fed up and had moved from the Charlotte area to Winston-Salem. And so I had a vacant home to play with. And so I took stuff out of my house and brought a few articles in and followed some of the procedures, had an open house and got an offer. And they were extremely, extremely excited about the whole thing. So that's how I got started. And of course, one situation's not enough. So I started using it for my other listings, and especially the ladies in the house, they loved it. They loved playing around with this kind of stuff. And there's an aroma part to it. There is The idea of bringing water in, for example, I got to the point where I was bringing water fountains in for open houses and all those kind of things. So I just found it really interesting and intriguing. And one thing led to another. And I got certified for the first time with a couple from California, Nevada City, I think it was. And I just fell in love with it, Chris. And so I stayed in real estate for a while doing this on the side. I was even at that point, I was traveling all over the Carolinas speaking for nothing. Just because I enjoyed it and I had been a teacher and I just sort of liked that kind of thing. So one thing led to another. And like I said, I just got so excited about it. I decided to go to my co-partner and tell David that I wanted to sell and just get out of real estate. And that happened, not 20, about 18 years ago. And then I went solely into Feng Shui at that point, much to everybody thinking I was crazy. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's like a big step, and it took a lot of courage on your part. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the potential to the whole thing, and I loved the way it made people feel. And and again, there's a creative side to me that I guess I just need to feed, you know. So anyway, I started getting paid to train people. and
wow, what did your wife say about all this?
Well, thank goodness she was on my side, you know.
Oh, that's great.
She had a really, really good job. And so, you know, getting into real estate in the first place was not easy. As you can imagine, the first few years are always somewhat difficult. And to supplement my income, I was actually doing an awful lot of tutoring in mathematics, which was my subject, and anything to keep in. I didn't want to go back to the classroom. And I really, you know, was enjoying what I was doing in real estate. But again, one thing led to another. And again, she was open up to it. I thank God tremendously that she was behind me and understood where my passion was. And so before 2008, which is a year you probably remember, I was actually traveling around the Southeast doing 3-day workshops for real estate agents. And really enjoying it and making some good money. So I've always just really liked to train and teach.
That's amazing. It's a fascinating journey in your life. I'm absolutely intrigued by the whole thing. So give us, for those of us that don't know what Feng Shui is, what is like the 50,000 foot view?
All right. When I teach classes, I always give them 3 definitions. And I start off with the most simple one, the art of placement. You know, you'll see that in books, but as I tell these folks, hey, look, there's a lot more to than where the couch goes or where the bed goes or all that kind of stuff. There's so much more than that. But another definition would have to bring in the idea of making this connection to the natural world, the outside. And then another one is just basically creating a situation that really makes people feel very comfortable and feeling secure on a subconscious level so that they can be productive. So, you know, you can take your pick. I guess I go with the third one when I'm stuck in an elevator.
I love it. I love it. So it's really the whole art. What did you consider? I guess it would be an art of how you place furniture and water. It brings in all these different elements of nature. Would you go so far as to, one of the things I'm a firm believer in, one of the things that I study a lot is, not that I'm an expert by no stretch, is quantum physics. And I know that everything is energy. Is that what we're talking about here? That the placement, the visual, the audio, the tactile, all of that is energy. It's based on energy.
It really is. And again, that's something that I always constantly bring up, that everything in this world is energy, including us. We're just vibrating at a very different pace than the chair you're sitting in, the chair that I'm sitting in. That's the way it is, you know. And I'm also a big proponent of quantum physics too. The idea that something can be affected on this side of the earth, will I have an effect on the other side, is quite amazing. But I do think there's a lot to that. But yeah, I mean, I always sort of introduce it as a very ancient environmental science, that these folks 4,000, 5,000 years ago, they just wanted to survive the days sometimes. And so they actually really went crazy to try to find the best place for them to actually put their house up. And so they use what's called the classic armchair. That's what we call it now, where they were looking for a mountain behind them that would protect their backs. They'd build about a third or halfway up the mountain. They'd look for, at the same time, some trees or forest or hills on the sides where the armrest might be. And then they also looked for the situation where they could see for miles ahead so they could react.
Wow. Wow.
You know, and we still do that. You know, if you think about it, when you go into a restaurant, you know, you're looking for a situation where you feel comfortable. And
always with my back against the wall.
There you go. There you go. You want your back protected. And I always kid my students. I said, you know, you want to look for a place where you have your back protected and you can see if your ex is coming through the front door.
Exactly. I love that. I love it. Is it really 4,000 years old? I never knew that.
Yeah, depending on the book, it'll say 4,000 years old. So
wow.
There are several schools. The first school was created by using the topology, and it's called Form School. And that is the one school that we use an awful lot in our training, where you know you want to protect your back. So again, when I set up the situation in a bedroom, I want to make sure that they feel as secure as possible.
That's interesting. So give us a couple examples of Feng Shui, and because I want to get into realtor specifically, but just give us a couple examples of the ease. I mean, I've heard a number of things, but could you give us some examples of what that would look like, changes you have made?
Sure. Well,
I know the one is always about mirrors, the strategic placement of mirrors. It's one thing I know.
Yeah, the kiddingly, some books will say it's the aspirin of Feng Shui.
Mirrors. I see.
Mirrors are very, very pivotal. I've got to admit to you, they're involved with a lot of cures to make sure that an area feels a little bit bigger and more spacious and supports you in a lot of ways. And depending on the floor plan, they can be used quite effectively to, again, sort of give the impression that you're enlarging it and taking away like a missing corner or something like that. But, you know, I've always want to make sure that the mirrors that we're using are giving sort of double the pleasure out of it, you might say. You know, you look at some mirrors, Chris, and they're showing things that are not overly positive. You know, you don't want to show clutter in the mirror. You don't want to show this or that. You know, the idea is, and if you're showing your tax forms in the mirror, you know, right away, you know, you're feeling more and more pressure and that kind of stuff. So where you put it, where you place it is very, very pivotal. So mirrors are definitely one of the major cures in Feng Shui.
And where you put your bed in your bedroom.
The bed is, it's so pivotal. You know, a lot of people are always surprised when I mention that Feng Shui is a lot about health. But the health of the individuals in the house are very, very important. And it all comes back to basically getting a great night's sleep. And if you're not getting yourself restored for the next day, you know, everything goes to, you know, where. And so you try to make sure that they have their back supported on hopefully a solid wall. Now, some rooms are too small for that to happen. And you might have to have it against a window, but that is not a good situation. So you want to up against a solid wall and be able to see what's coming through that door so that you can react. So it's all a lot of subconscious feeling about how you feel. And if you feel comfortable, you're going to feel a lot more secure too.
Interesting. So a couple of things that I've heard, tell me if I'm wrong or right, is that you shouldn't have a bed directly facing the door. Is that correct?
That's correct. The energy coming through the door is a little fast. Okay, so it's coming from the hallway. Straight hallways, for example, are moving the energy really fast. So the energy could then come over and disturb your sleep and create all kinds of problems. And so the basic thing is you move the bed. And if you just move it sometimes only 6 to 12 inches to one side or the other, you've possibly taken care of the situation.
I'm just absolutely fascinated by this. Another thing that I heard too, at the risk of getting indelicate, is that you're supposed to keep your toilet lid closed. And is it true that at night when you're sleeping, like my bathroom in the principal bedroom is like on the other side of the room. You're supposed to keep the door closed. Is that correct or no?
Well, yeah. I mean, I tell everybody to make sure you keep the door shut to a bathroom, whether it's used or not being used. So you keep it shut. You put the toilet seat down. If you're really, really worried about it, you can even pull the stopper up in the sink, all those kind of things. But
wow.
And if you really have a bad situation, one of the cures is to put a mirror on the outside of the door facing out. So, there's a lot of things that you can do. And there are bad places for bathrooms and there are better places for bathrooms. I think if they had their druthers, we'd probably go back to the outhouse probably, but
I love it. That's great. And then how do you use water features? What is the point of the water feature? What does it do? And where should it go?
Well, there are five elements, and they are water, wood, earth, fire, and metal. And you need to try to understand that the first thing that a lot of practitioners do, and that's the first thing that I do, is that I lay a template over the environment and try to find out where the dominant elements are located. The dominant water element would be located more in the center of the front of the house, probably in a foyer. Okay, so that is a great place right there. And mirrors, believe it or not, even represent water. So it's another way to use a mirror to increase the water element in that particular area.
And what does it do? What is water supposed to do?
Well, to me, it really creates, I'm trying to create a balance. So getting into what an element actually does is they are all interactive in a lot of ways. So you're wanting to try to get a balance of all five of them. And so if I was working on the foyer, I would want to have probably maybe 40% of it be represented by water. It could be represented by a painting of a seascape. It could be a mirror, the colors of blues and blacks. They can be in that area. You can find a wavy shape on a rug, a runner in the foyer. So I've had to become very, very good at picking paintings out, you might say. So, but water is dominant only there. It's not anywhere else dominant. But again, they're all interactive. And so you try to find out where they are. And the dominant element should be around 40% because we stay away from extremes. You don't want the whole thing water, for example.
Right. Interesting. Now, another thing that I've heard, speaking of the foyer, is it true that if you have a house and you open up the front door and you can see straight through the house right out the back window, that's no bueno? That's
right. Those are that and the drains that you were alluding to in the bathroom and of course the kitchen. Those are the two ways for you to lose the energy that you've fought so hard to try to entice to come into your house through the front door. So
interesting.
The front door, which is called the mouth of chi, is the primary place where you bring in the chi or bring in the energy. And you don't want to lose it right away. So you want it to circulate. So a good practitioner will learn how to circulate it as evenly as possible, throughout the house. Going upstairs is a little bit more of a trial, but all those things have to be taken into account. But you're right. And if you think about the real estate part of it, if your buyer comes in the front door and right away gets totally turned on from the back, that is where they're going to want to go to right away. So they're going to forget. They're not going to register the rooms to the side possibly, or some other beautiful wood trim or whatever. And they're just going to miss it because they're going to be so turned on by, I don't know, the ocean. Okay. Turned on by a mountain or beautiful trees or great landscaping or a pool. So all those things can sort of take away their focus and then hurt the sale of the house. But it's
Well, it's interesting because now, I mean, obviously in San Francisco, anyways, there are a lot of, not a lot, but there are some new buildings, new construction. And
right.
there are a lot of houses where you open the front door and you see right out the back. So is there a way to combat that?
Right. You try to use something like, well, I use the term obstacles. And so you
Mm,
use obstacles to try to take their concentration, their focus away for a moment.
mm-hmm,
So paintings on a wall, for example,
mm,
if you walk down a hallway and you see some paintings, hopefully nice ones, hopefully, you're going to take in each one. And we do.
mm.
You do. It might only be a split second because maybe you didn't like it, but maybe one or two of them might catch your interest. So you're sort of slowing it down a little bit, causing the
I see.
energy to just take it easy a little bit. But you use things like that, or you use things like half tables in a hallway, or if it's a real wide hallway, you can use pots, anything to
Mm,
sort of create what I would consider the bumper pool effect, where it hits, makes it go around the energy and
I see.
slows it down. If you have windows at the end and you can't really do anything to close it off with doors or anything like that, you can always close it up for that particular moment, and then open it up. But again,
Mm.
a lot of buyers just sort of get really, really hung up on what's at the back sometimes.
Hmm. I want to get into the real estate part, but tell me, this is just hitting me right now, and that is, I don't even know if you can answer this question, is when you walk into a house, for instance,
Mhm.
and it has bad feng shui,
Right.
how do you feel? How does one feel? I mean, do you notice that if you're more conscious about this now?
I definitely think so, and I think we all have. I think we've all walked into an environment that just didn't quite feel right. So
Mm,
one of the things that I always want to train people in is we've got to take away the flight and fight situation.
uh,
You know, so automatically when you go into a new environment that you've never been in, you're curious, and you're also wondering if you can fit in okay, if there's
mm,
anything that I need to worry about. So you try to take that away as quickly as possible so that we can really start to build that comfort level for a person.
mhm.
And again, it's not just for somebody that's maybe looking to buy a home. It's for all your visitors, even your
Mhm.
in-laws, even if you don't like them.
So it's really something that you would feel uncomfortable, just sort of like your intuition, your
Right, right.
sixth sense. I see.
That's correct.
Interesting. So, at the risk of being Captain Obvious here, why is this important for realtors to understand this? Which I think I know the answer, but
Well, one of the reasons why I switched from being a basic home stager to basically using nothing but feng shui is that
Mhm.
it's extremely inexpensive to do. And I didn't have to store any couches or anything like that. I basically had paintings and pillows and things like that, to
Mm,
change it up. So, for example, the fire element can be brought in by the color red and orange. So, yes, I had a lot of red pillows at one time.
mm,
And so, if that particular part of the house was calling for an addition of fire, I can easily bring in a couple of red pillows, or maybe change the painting that's on the wall and bring out that particular color. Now, fire can be brought in by those colors, but it can be brought in by a lot of other ways. That's the great thing about the elements, Chris, that you can
mhm,
bring them in by color, you can bring them by shape, and you can bring them in
mm,
by object. So the shape for fire is anything pointy, or a pyramid or a triangle. So anything like
mm,
that, a plant that looks like that, is also going to bring in fire.
mhm.
So I can bring that in. I can bring that in again into a rug, into a painting, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So the objects would be again a pyramid, I guess, but there's a lot of other possibilities too. But that's one of the neat things about it, is that to me, there's a lot of common sense to it, and it's
Mhm,
very inexpensive to do it. And a lot of
mhm.
the homeowners can actually do most of these things themselves.
I think this is really fascinating, and for realtors listening to this, you have a school, And for a realtor to be able to explain this, but obviously not get into it, but to have that on their CV or their resume and to
Right.
be able to talk to home sellers about that, I mean, that could be a significant marketing advantage, right? For a realtor to know this stuff. In addition to them working with the stager and working with the seller
Mhm.
to get the, darn house sold,
Right. Well, I mean, I use that all the time, that it sets you apart. It makes you unique.
Mm,
Okay. And it doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Billings, Montana, or Oklahoma City. It doesn't really matter. You're going to be set apart somewhat. So, I'm sure you will agree with this. There's an awful lot of realtors out there that look the same.
mhm. Right,
They
right.
don't offer anything different.
Mhm.
I used to always say the three P's is what they give you, which is place the sign in the yard, put it
Uh-huh.
in the MLS, and then pray for somebody to bring a box.
Exactly, exactly. I love it. So it really would behoove all of us real estate agents to, I mean, that's the whole point of your school, right? Which is the Feng Shui real estate professional. That's the certification that you're doing. The intrinsic school of Feng Shui is what you're running, and you get the certification. So this is something that really would benefit a realtor in terms of having.
Right. I actually offer three different certifications, and
Mhm.
one of the first one's self-paced, and it's got 30 videos in it. But I get involved all the time anyway with folks asking me
Uh-huh.
questions daily. And then there's another one where I'm also coaching and training for 45 days,
Mhm.
one-on-one. And then the other one is to become a completely professional consultant, which of course is a little more expensive, but yeah, we offer an awful lot of different training possibilities. And
Mhm.
you know uh, I've been training now people for 20 years, so I love it. And,
Wow.
I've got a lot of graduates out there.
That's great. That's great. So, okay, Grant is asking, so how long does it take to go through the training?
Again, it depends on which one we're talking about, but let me go to the consultant situation, and then you can
Hmm.
work your way back a little bit.
Okay.
The consultant, there are 42, 44 hours of training involved with it.
Wow.
At the same time, we're the only school that actually even pays for a person's first year of membership to the International Feng Shui Guild, which is our governing board. And
Wow.
so it's 42 hours at least, and some people take a lot longer. Some people move pretty quickly, but we're
Hmm.
myself and my partner Lisa Altman are very involved with those folks all the way through it. And then again, the other ones are really depending on how fast you want to go. But the first one, the Feng Shui Staging Professional, that
Hmm.
again is 30 videos. I've had some people go through that in 2 weeks. Okay. and
Wow.
ask me just a few questions, because I mean, I think it's well done, of course, but you know
Hmm.
but some people need a little bit more help than others.
Hmm. Interesting. And so, again, there's three courses, right?
Right, right.
So I think it would behoove any realtor. It would really behoove any realtor to at least have a working knowledge of this and take one of these courses, and then based on your interest level, you could take
Yeah,
one course after the other. I see.
that's the way to look at it, Chris. It's really the best way to do it. And one of the things that I think we do really well in the first class, which is self-paced, is we sort of talk to you about how to talk to people about it.
Hmm.
You got to understand, I was developing my school, my courses and stuff in a place that's a little more conservative in the
Hmm.
Carolinas. And
Hmm.
so I had to learn how to replace chi with energy
Uh-huh.
and that
Uh-huh.
kind of stuff. So, that's fine. But, more and more people were more and more open up to the idea. But
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of places, of course, San Francisco, very, very open up to the whole idea. I know you have
Hmm.
a large Asian population, and they're very much into it. But I've got graduates all over the country, and some in Europe, believe it or not, and quite a few in
Hmm.
Canada.
Wow. Interesting. Patty is asking, what is Patty asking? I think what she means is, so if you wanted to bring a feng shui consultant into the fold when you're working with a seller, I think she's asking this, is at what point in the process would you bring a feng shui consultant? And I'm going to follow that up with, how do you find a feng shui professional?
Boy, that is going to be a little bit tougher question, but maybe I should start with that.
Okay.
You can find them, of course, on the internet, and there are all different types of schools. And not everybody is involved with directionals, with this and that. I've had buyers in my car, Chris. I'm sure you've had buyers in your car that want to be facing southwest or whatever. Mm-hmm. And my school does cover that, but that is a different school. And I moved towards what I do with Form School and the American version called BTB, because it works with existing homes. So if you're going to look into it, you want to make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. Now, if I'm involved with somebody building from the ground up, that's a different situation. I can worry about their auspicious directions. I can't do that so easily with an existing home. So that answers that. And the other question was when?
Well, yeah, when?
Immediately. Because, you maybe have heard of space clearings. And they're not for everybody. Some people find them a little bit, I guess, woo. But, they're very, very powerful to get rid of the predecessor energy of.
And now, what is space clearance?
All right, space clearing is basically going through steps to clear the old energy out and bring in new nourishing energy, has a different feel and a different kind of atmosphere to the whole thing. So it can take several hours, but I've come up with a way of doing it so that I can get people's energy out of the house as much as possible. We've all shown houses where they've got all these pictures up of their whole family, and they've got these weird colors in these rooms in that room. And, and you really they can't see themselves living there very well. So, as a realtor, any realtor really, you want to take that away. You want to make sure that they can see themselves there. Well, it's called predecessor energy in Feng Shui. And so you really want to sort of take that away as quickly as possible. And I got to the point in my real estate career that if they wouldn't do what I called the 4 big Ds, which was my way of doing a space clearing, then I really wasn't interested. It just, you can spend a lot of money in this business, as you know, and not get results.
So what are the 4 big Ds?
Okay. I thought you would never ask. Well, of course, I had to make some of these up. It's called decluttering. Huge thing in Feng Shui for a lot of reasons. Okay, it's not just for the visual part of it, for a lot of reasons. And so decluttering is one of them. Another one's detailing, and that means fixing everything. When you have a buyer and they walk in there and they turn on a switch, or they go into the master bathroom and one of the lights is out or whatever, they right away get a little bit more frightened about, is this the house? Can I make a decision on this? So you want to make sure everything works. In Feng Shui, anything that doesn't work properly is bad Feng Shui. So that's another one. Another one is depersonalizing, believe it or not. And again, I want to make sure that the house shows as, very, very promising for them. And I certainly, and if they have any kind of illness or anything, I want to take that away. I don't want them to ever think it's a sick home. And then the other one is one that I have my biggest fights with folks. It's called a deep cleaning. A lot of folks think, oh, my house is so clean. How dare you ask me to do anything more? But see, a deep cleaning to me is from baseboard up to the ceiling. It's all those blinds. It's behind the refrigerator where you've never seen since you moved in 10 years ago. Once you do that kind of thing, once you do that, the place smells a heck of a lot better. You're ready for the final walkthrough already too. And, everything just feels so much better if you just take care of those 4Ds. And
right.
So once they do that, and then I go through with my checklist trying to come across what I need to have happen with the elements, the flow, and even the yin yang theory too. So those are the 4 big Ds, and I try to get people to do them right away.
When you're talking to sellers about Feng Shui, are you do you normally get a lot of pushback? Are sellers or are they really receptive? Or are they impressed? What's their reaction generally?
Well, for the most part, I'm not going in there without them wanting me to be there.
Right.
I do have some realtors in the area that call me constantly, but I can tell you one of them, the last time was not a very positive situation. I go in there and I make all these suggestions, and I'm spending several hours in there, and he didn't want to do anything. And I know that she was not very pleased about that, because she was paying me to do this. But he was an older gentleman who just really was somewhat set in his ways and didn't want to do it. But most people are very receptive to anything new. And I always feel like I always sort of present it in a very common sense way, because it really is, whether you're protecting your back, or you want to have the correct color scheme, you want to have a good smell or whatever, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about aroma for a second. To me, the yin and yang situation is a very pivotal, and there's yin smells and yang smells, and there are yin food and yang food and all that kind of stuff, colors too. So with the smell, and this is a great tip for any realtor out there right now, is that I always made 90% of the house yang, very active, very open, awake. Okay. So things registered real well. So for example, cinnamon or French vanilla or citrus.
Right.
But then I changed it one place, and you might have a pretty good idea where that was. It's the master bedroom. The master bedroom is going to hopefully knock their socks off. And I want, when they cross over that threshold in there, say, oh my gosh, this room is so different. I know I'm going to feel comfortable here. I know this could be my sanctuary that I've been looking for. And so, for example, lavender and those kind of things are work always very well for me. I want them to notice it. I want them to notice it from the 5 senses, that basically this is a special place. And, the master bedroom can be used for a lot of things that are not what you should be using it for. And so you try to make sure they understand that it's really for rest, restoration, and romance. And that's about it. You're not in there to do your taxes.
Right.
And really, if I could, I'd have everybody take their television out. But, that's like a no-no with everybody. So.
This is so fascinating. I actually think this is something that is, the more I talk to you, the more I think it's really imperative for all real estate agents to really at least have a working knowledge of Feng Shui and how this can affect, their business, them getting new listings, and using that to differentiate themselves. I really like that. I'm trying to figure out a 5th D, because I don't know if this is related to Feng Shui, and I can't figure out how to say this with a D. But I have a listing right now where the seller's energy is so negative that the showings are not going well. And it's a beautiful condo in one of the nicest areas, Pacific Heights, nicest areas of San Francisco. But the seller's got this real negative energy, and I don't know how you combat that. I don't even know if this is related to Feng Shui. So,
well, again, believe it or not, it really is. And one of the things that you always should make sure when you talk to the folks to start with, is there anybody in here that really has negative feelings about it? And you're going to find that with respect to some teenagers, for example. They don't want to leave their friends. They don't want to go here and there, their family. Or it could be, maybe they have their mother-in-law living there. So, you want to basically check with everybody and let them understand that this is a family thing, and we're doing this together. and you basically it would be great if they would draw up a pact, you know, and, and cross their
I
heart.
love that. I love that.
But there are people. It just takes one. It just takes one to create that negative energy that
Right.
sort of permeate the environment that I don't want to live. I don't want to.
Wow. Yeah, I love this. So what we want to do, okay, there's going to be a lot of people that are, no, somebody's asking a question that is not related. So what we're going to do is what we want people to do is to contact you to at least inquire about the schooling and become more educated about Feng Shui. And that's really the best thing for you.
Yeah, that's great. That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Steve, what is the best way to reach you? I'm going to put all your contact information in the show notes and all that, but in addition, right now.
Okay. Well, probably the best thing, Chris, is just to go to my one website instead of confusing everybody. But it's of course www.thefengshuicure.com.
The Feng Shui Cure. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm actually working on another book right now, and I'm thinking about using that in the title now, the Feng Shui Cure for family, the Feng Shui Cure for, I've got a whole module that I've done for school systems, and nobody will let me do them. So I would love to talk to them about bad lighting and stuff like that.
Wow, this is great. I think it's an amazing topic, and I really appreciate you taking the time, Steve. I have a real estate coaching program specifically for listing agents, and I'm actually going to put this in the training that they need to contact you, because I think this is. I never really gave the Feng Shui the importance that I think now, after talking to you, it really deserves. And again, I think that all of us, those of you listening live, those of you listening to the recording, I think Feng Shui is something that really could, like you mentioned, bring a huge marketing benefit to you in terms of you doing more business, getting more listings, but most importantly, getting the listing sold. So I really appreciate your time, and this is fascinating. So Steve, thank you so much, man.
Oh, I've loved it, Chris. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, buddy.